the gateway to the West, St. Louis. Normally in sporting terms, the dominant color is cardinal red, but tonight, in one of America's great baseball yards, Busch Stadium, it is red, white, and blue, the national colors of the United States in a World Cup qualifying match, the United States of America against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And good evening and welcome to St. Louis. I'm Bob Lee. All events around the world, especially all sporting events, seen today through the prism of the horror in Paris. Of course, if you are learning about the details, as more details come out from Paris at that friendly match at Stade de France in Saint-Denis earlier today in the 16th minute as Germany and France were playing, an apparent suicide attack outside the stadium heard clearly by people inside. That's just part of a series of coordinated terrorist attacks across Paris. A state of emergency has been declared there at Stade de France. They did play the match to completion, but afterwards some were reluctant to leave, seeking what they thought would be safety on the field. No more events after those two explosions outside the stadium. Casey Keller is here. We've got a football match to talk about. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, lowest remaining CONCACAF team. The United States finally gets into qualification. No question what the result probably will be tonight. The question is U.S. form, because it has been not good lately.
Yeah, there was obviously the devastating loss to Mexico in that CONCACAF Gold Cup final that taken place in L.A. But 3 home losses in a row, not the form you want to be in going into qualifying. You get an opportunity to put that right against 129th ranked team in the world. 99.9% chance this is a win to the U.S. You got to play the game, but it's a great way to boost confidence going forward in qualifying.
There's pressure, though, on the U.S. to play and play well. The lineup they will play tonight in a 4-4-2. Guzan gets the start in goal. Tim Marine, local lad, starts outside.
Always fun to play in your hometown with your family present. Yedlin playing in that right back position. Hasn't played that a lot for the U.S. And then you've got the experience in the midfield with Jones and Bradley. Fabian Johnson, who was dismissed from the squad by Jurgen Klinsmann on that left back start, on that left mid role. Bobby Wood, big opportunity to start up front with Josie Altidore.
He has been the super sub, certainly, for this team, Bobby Wood, this year with some critical and important goals in friendlies. And now he has a start because Clint Dempsey was not selected for this team off a poor performance against Mexico. We talk about a generational shift. We await to see, with 3 starters 24 or younger tonight, what we'll make of this.
Well, you're going into a brand new World Cup qualifying campaign. You've got 30-some months before the World Cup. This is an opportunity to really get your young players involved and get them moving, thinking that in 2.5 years down the road, you want to be at a World Cup with a younger team than you had before, more physical, more active, and you're going, this is where that starts.
First time in nearly 40 years the United States has come into World Cup qualifying with 3 consecutive home losses. There's pressure, not to win certainly, they're expected to do that. Pressure to flash some form and show promise in this move towards a generational shift. The World Cup is 31 months away in Russia. And here, a sold-out Busch Stadium. You could put half the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in here tonight. But many, many Americans here to see their national team, hoping they will play with the form that has been lacking.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's about trying to move forward from disappointing losses over the last couple months, and then you're playing against a team that you're expected to win, but you understand that this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint World Cup qualifying. So it's just get the first 3 points and then move forward down to Trinidad in a few days, and then there's the break. But it's all about going forward and just qualifying for Russia however you need to do it.
That game you referenced, that's Tuesday. Much different test than tonight. So, in a chilly evening in St. Louis, on the other side of the break, in dark, Taylor Twellman will tell you about this game tonight with the U.S. beginning on the road to Russia.
We're in St. Louis, Missouri tonight, but all our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Paris after the shocking and appalling news coming from the French capital this evening. But the World Cup match here does go ahead, the start of the World Cup campaign for the United States men's national team. And they're not in good form. The road to Russia might be a rocky one, Taylor.
No doubt about it, Ian. It's remarkable to really think about it, that the World Cup in Russia starts 31 months from tonight. And no doubt about it that 2015 was a difficult year. I think the biggest talking point tonight, not only for this game, but for World Cup qualifying, is 11 of the 23 players here are 25 or younger. This national team under Jurgen Klinsmann needs to get younger, needs to get more athletic. You and I saw that a couple years ago in Brazil. This team has to get faster, younger when it comes to the World Cup. That's the goal tonight, starting with the World Cup qualifying.
And it has to start winning as well. There's the United States team. 8 of the Brazil World Cup squad are there. Interestingly, a start for the young Hawaiian striker Bobby Wood. So often a super sub, he goes from the beginning here.
And tonight I have my eye on DeAndre Yedlin and Fabian Johnson playing in their natural positions, which is the subject of my Continental Tire Analyst Corner. Consistent criticism of Jurgen Klinsmann during his tenure has been his consistency of playing players out of their natural positions, their positions they've been familiar with their clubs. Fabian Johnson has been phenomenal coming out of the midfield, recently scoring for Juventus in Champions League. He gives you quality coming out of the midfield. DeAndre Yedlin, recently playing fullback for Sunderland. He's more comfortable going forward. Both players have an opportunity to show that tonight.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a romantic location. There's a fisherman, a coast guard, and a painter in this team.
The leader of the back four is Francis. The 2 attacking players, Anderson and Slater, to keep an eye on tonight.
But before we start here tonight, there will be a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the shocking attacks in Paris this evening. Our MC is Andy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise now for a moment of silence. We pause to mourn those victims from today's attacks in Paris. We ask that you join us in remembering these individuals and their loved ones.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
And that moment beautifully observed by the people of St. Louis, who have turned out in their thousands to support what is the first World Cup qualifier played in this city since 1989. But it is a city with a bit of a soccer heritage. 5 of the famous team which beat England at the World Cup in 1950 came from this very city, as does the man alongside me here, Taylor Twellman.
It's a surreal moment for myself. I was at that World Cup qualifier. I was 9 years old, so to be back here sitting next to you for this moment here in the city of St. Louis, something special for me.
Great support from the US fans, but they need to see the American team get back into form. Recent displays have been woeful and close to alarming, and some of the young players need to really step up. It's the US who get us underway on a chilly night in Missouri on this surface specially laid, the stadium converted from a baseball arena, usually of course the home of the Cardinals. What do St. Vincent and the Grenadines have to offer? Part-time players, the US on paper should be way too good for them. What happens on grass, though?
Well, and I think the most important thing for the United States tonight is just playing quickly, keeping up the speed of play, and ultimately putting pressure on this team. But I can guarantee you one thing, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines will defend with 10.5 players behind the ball for 80+ minutes tonight.
Defense maybe not their strong point. They do tend to let in goals. There's Cameron, who has been in good form. He's just back from injury at Stoke City. Took part in the recent win over Chelsea last week, coming off the bench in that game. Nicely laid off. St. Vincent and the Grenadines look to build down the right-hand side. Matt Burnett it was with a rather nice lap. How much can they keep the ball? That's nicely played for the debutant Senyard Bowens, a debut at 28, and the right-back Milan Prescott is making a debut at the age of 30. Here's the best player, maybe, Anderson, who's been playing with Seattle's second team. Good reports about him.
Well, he's explosive. He's very good breaking down players one-on-one. He's confident coming inside and taking players on. But I think we need to comment, Ian, we're 2 minutes into this game. On your TV monitors, the field looks awful, but walking it, many of the players were very complimentary about the surface. The grass was laid down over 2.5, 3 weeks ago. No complaints from the players whatsoever on the surface tonight.
Yedlin playing his conventional position of right back here. And here's the first involvement for Bobby Wood. It's been a bit of a clamour for him to get a start. This might be the ideal opportunity for him to really shine. Jermaine Jones looking for the quick 1-2 with Jassi Zardes, who is one of the younger brigade who has come through into the side and kept his place. But even there, the jury is still out a little bit on the LA Galaxy man.
Well, I think a lot of that for Jassi Zardes and his development this year is all 17 caps in 1 year. But tonight is 18th, but he's playing in a wide position. You don't see the explosive numbers that we saw for the LA Galaxy. He's trying to find his way. The hardest thing for Jassi Zardes, Ian, is in a game like tonight where there's 10 players in one half. Can he break down? Can he play the midfield position, try to combine, and not just rely on that athleticism going forward?
Kevin Francis clearing the ball. We're told he's the best of the defenders, but it's worth noting that St. Vincent and the Grenadines let in 4 goals in their away game in one of the earlier qualifiers against Guyana. They won that on the away goals because they rattled in 4 themselves. 2-2 draw at home. They also beat Aruba, and Tevin Slater, the youngster who's been getting among the goals for them, got an 84th minute goal in that match to send them through. Lovely place, tourist venue, the island's named by Christopher Columbus. Pirates of the Caribbean was filmed there. Nicely played by Bowens. He's made a good start, really, for a guy making his debut. Whether there'll be stage fright was something that they were a little worried about, I know, in the St. Vincent and Grenadines camp. And they've done a lot of work getting these players ready mentally to this kind of game. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, they've ever played. Wood looking to get in behind, but it's well cut out there by Richardson. Quickly won back again. Is Matt Beasler back in the fold? He seems to be in and out of the squad since the World Cup. Bradley to lay the ball forward. And the US rather giving possession away. And that's been a problem as well lately. Confidence and belief wouldn't be at its highest just at the moment. Here's Olex Anderson again. Wonderful chance and a brilliant goal. What about that? And the US absolutely stunned here by the minnows.
And we knew coming into tonight that Anderson was an explosive type of player. A player that will come inside, he'll look for those seams. But as this ball's played over the top, Ian, watch DeAndre Yedlin, Jeff Cameron, this ball's played through. DeAndre Yedlin doesn't step forward. So now Anderson has complete momentum coming forward. Great touch, simple finish. And it's just a simple ball over the top of Jeff Cameron's head. And immediately when that happens, you see a conversation with Brad Guzan, Jeff Cameron, with that man right there in DeAndre Yedlin.
What a stunner that is. He was 20 only 2 days ago. He plays at Seattle Sounders. He's now scored 10 goals in 20 matches, and Jurgen Klinsmann, like everybody else here, can barely believe it. His defense there was ripped apart. Did I say stage fright for St. Vincent and the Grenadines? I think you can rewrite that. How do the US respond to that? Fabian Johnson back to Michael Bradley, and they now know. We were told this kid was good, and I think he showed it really to everybody here. Here's Zardes.
But it's all about the communication of DeAndre Yedlin, Jassi Zardes. It's a ball simply over the top. Jeff Cameron deals with it, but now Zardes and Yedlin aren't in the right spot to deal with the second ball. All the credit in the world goes to that man right there, Anderson. Explosive on his front foot, great finish.
Fantastic finish. Exactly what the US didn't need in their current mode. And started World Cup qualifying against similar level opposition last time on the cycle against Antigua and Barbuda. They only won that 3-1 and were in trouble in that game as well. Here's Bradley. Very important for the US to keep their nerve a little and hopefully bite back quickly, but Richardson got in a foot quite easily, and that defense has started very well.
But so much of that, Ian, so much of the St. Vincent and Grenadines training yesterday, you got the feeling that they were just kind of nothing to lose mentality. Enjoying playing in front of 45,000 plus, just enjoying the moment. Great early start on the road here.
Well, any thoughts that the US would be in some kind of walk in the park here? I think we can forget that already. Zardes is the player brought down by Roy Richards, who, when he's not playing football, is a painter. I think of houses, not landscapes.
And I think this is one of the areas tonight that the United States can dominate, get back into this game, is set pieces. Ezra Hendrickson, the assistant coach of St. Vincent Grenadines, talked about just keeping your marks and staying focused. This is an area the United States can have an impact on the game tonight.
Fabian Johnson is going to take this come over from the left-hand side. It wasn't a very good one, in all honesty. Ball bouncing around dangerously. Richards doing well. He's one of those who's had several caps. Got a few injuries as well at the moment. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, about 4 of their regulars not available for this big game. It's the sort of semi-final stage of World Cup qualifying. Top 2 in this group, which also includes Trinidad and Tobago, and Guatemala will go through to the so-called Hex, the final 6.
Remember the last semi-final round you and I were together? Speaking of Guatemala, we had to go to Kansas City, Sporting Park. Carlos Ruiz scored an early goal. It's just not as easy as it once was in CONCACAF.
It went to the last game, which was won by 3-1, as you remembered it, Taylor. Here's Bradley now. Fabian Johnson back to Tim Ream, playing in his home city here. Good looking ball in towards Altidore. The goalkeeper McDowell got a fist to it, importantly. Bowens trying to feed it up towards Tevin Slater, the big, tall, lanky striker. They're playing with 2 up there, him and Gavin James. And it's a sign, really, of where St. Vincent and the Grenadines are in world football, that James actually plays for a team playing in the 6th tier in England, and he's not a starter usually for them either. Maidenhead United. Here's the goal scorer, Olex Anderson. The youngest player on the field has opened the scoring in shocking fashion. Few problems for him at the moment.
Well, there was few problems for him all year long in 2015. Just, yes, they had some performances against Peru, Germany, Netherlands, but in the big moments, the big games, it was a difficult year in 2015. And right now, early on tonight,
just break off for a moment.
Just unsure of themselves, Ian, going forward. Final moment, the final ball.
As in there, Bradley, that's better though. Yedlin to cut it back, and Wood! Oh, that's a sensationally clever finish. In from the start, scoring as well. US level, and it's Bobby Wood. That was a very, very slick-headed finish.
While 2015 has been a difficult year for the United States, it's been a massive year for Bobby Wood. You think of goals against Germany, Netherlands, Mexico, and tonight gets the right to start the game. Yedlin doing a good job coming forward, but Bobby Wood with his 4th goal in 2015, and who would have thought a goal that would get them back into a game against St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And Taylor, you'll appreciate it. As a goal scorer yourself in your career, that wasn't an easy header, was it?
No, but it was also a great run, though, from DeAndre Yedlin. And I think that's one of the parts of his game that he's matured on, is that final ball. We've seen it all season long. Going forward, good decision, better finish from Bobby Wood.
More ball from Altidore with Zardes waiting in space. It's the first time Bobby Wood has scored, by the way, as a starter for the US, and the first time he's ever scored before the 88th minute of a game. The others have come in, well, prestige games, really. And the win in the Netherlands, the win in Germany, not very long ago as well, and he also scored one against Mexico. Well, they're looking for another player to give Josie Altidore something to think about in the selection stakes. I think Wood might be that man. Scored last week for his club team as well in the second division of the Bundesliga.
And especially with the injuries, problems with Aaron Johansson at the present time, Klinsmann needs a second forward up front. It's so difficult, Ian, to change your mentality. And Bobby Wood has shown in his brief national team career that he's been much more comfortable coming off the bench. Tonight, one of the things Jurgen Klinsmann wanted to see is the mentality and the activity of Bobby Wood early on in this game. A goal will do just fine for Jurgen Klinsmann and Bobby Wood.
That's exactly what the United States needed, because I think had St. Vincent and the Grenadines held on to this lead a little longer, they would have really started to believe in the miracle. I think there's a question as well, isn't there, Taylor, really? These are part-time players playing against guys who play this game for a living and for money all the time. In the last half an hour, it's going to get tough on their limbs, isn't it?
Well, look at the two debut players, Prescott and Bowens. One's 28, one's 30. They're making their debuts tonight, Ian. Inexperience is the name of the game for this team, and they've gotten this far, but how they survive the first half will tell you a lot about how this game's going to go.
Josie Altidore just struggling for his touch a little at the moment. Yedlin much involved with the goal. I think the question marks about DeAndre Yedlin is, if he's going to play right back, how good a defender is he? I think we know he's got pace and can offer things going forward from that position. Certainly he was taken to the cleaners among some other defenders by Anderson's goal early on. Here's Jeff Cameron. Up to Jermaine Jones, who still goes strong in that midfield. He was excellent at the World Cup and scored a screamer against Portugal, you might remember. Bradley's measured ball is a good one to Tim Ream. And that's not a bad idea. The volleyed cross just had a bit too much juice on it for Zardes. Some goal, though, wasn't it?
It is, but you're talking about DeAndre Yedlin and his maturation. I think DeAndre Yedlin's much better when everything's in front of him. In the appearances we've seen him playing a midfield spot, he's not very good at the nuances of trying to find the seams. When everything's in front of him, he's explosive and does a wonderful job of playing a ball in for Bobby Wood to finish.
Defended by Reginald Richardson. He plays his football in Finland. One of the few players who comes from a club away from the Caribbean. Plays in the Finland Division 3. The population of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines is 103,000. It's the same as Billings, Montana, by the way. Up against the 300 million or so of the United States. Because there's expectations every time now of this US team to not only qualify but do well. Fabian Johnson, good forging run. Here's Wood again! And it's, well, in the end, it's wide. But it was the right kind of dinked little finish. Well played, Fabian Johnson, for setting it up.
And this is why I'm begging for Jurgen Klinsmann to play Fabian Johnson in the midfield. He does a wonderful job at always picking the right moments to pick the seams, come inside. Now you've got an attacking player. You don't have to rely on Michael Bradley time and time again to be that player. Fabian Johnson is a special player when he comes out of the midfield. That is a great look and a great run forward from Johnson.
He is, of course, the player who was sent home from the last camp, more or less accused of making too much of an injury and wanting to come off in that big playoff game against Mexico. That a line has been drawn under that by all parties. Johnson very happy to come back into camp, called up for this game.
You can argue with Jurgen Klinsmann, but immediately that weekend, Fabian Johnson played.
Yeah, he did. And since then, he scored in the Champions League against Juventus as well for Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are on a heck of a run, by the way, in the Bundesliga. They've been storming up, and this fella's been doing well for them. Well, he was feeling the Vinci heat early on. That's what they're called, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now you know why. the only thing that is hot in this city tonight. Here's Andre Yedlin. It's good to see him getting a run in the Sunderland team, despite the recent change of manager. Sam Allardyce now in charge, but continues to pick Yedlin. Cameron. Now Bradley. Johnson again. Cameron, that's a decent idea, trying to pick up Altidor's run. It was Richards who got it away.
It's a difficult game here, 18 minutes in. Not very few touches for Josie Altidore, and he's going to have to deal with the two defensive midfielders sitting in front of him. How can he find those seams? How can he find possession, any kind of touches? But it's vital when Tim Ream or Yedlin get forward that Josie Altidore is inside the 18 trying to get on the end of a cross.
Heavy touch by Jermaine Jones. US ought to be dominating possession, really, as the superior players. And opposition has to keep chasing the ball, keep concentrating. That can take its effect, particularly late in the game. Little clever back header from Zardes, good idea. Beasler. Bradley. To Beasler again, his clubmate Graham Zusi well out of the picture, it would seem, at the moment, having looked so promising and having gone to the last World Cup. Maybe he will make a statement again of what he can do next year. Here is Bradley. Clever little touch again by Zardes. Nice idea. Runners from midfield important for the USA to try to befuddle and bemuse the St. Vincent and Grenadines defenders. It's a great chance of a confidence builder, this, isn't it, for a side a bit short of belief. Altidore, and then it's a miscue that time from Johnson.
Well, and they will need that confidence. And Tuesday in Trinidad is not an easy game.
Yeah, they've got some useful players, a quite physical side as well. It'll be a big crowd, noisy atmosphere. Ream. Wood lays it off. Bradley looking to break forward from midfield. It's a good challenge to stop him. Next up, it is that Trinidad and Tobago game, and then there's a break until March when the US play the other team in the group twice, home and away, Guatemala. It didn't ought to be a problem, but we've seen often enough with World Cup qualification that nothing can be really taken for granted. Mexico nearly didn't make it, did they, last time? They needed that late goal.
You brought up
from
Graham Zusi.
Graham Zusi.
Graham
Yeah.
Zusi.
If he hadn't got it, Mexico wouldn't have gone to Brazil. Still a hero there, I think. Needs to become a hero again for the US. Got a few injury problems I've heard as well, which haven't helped. Here's Jones. Now Yedlin. Trying to work the triangles. Zardes. Now Altidore. Zardes again. Good approach play. A few ideas here from the US. Too long for Fabian Johnson. I know the St. Vincent and Grenadines camp were a little bit worried about their defenders. There's not a real leader back there, not somebody who doesn't really do the talking. Now Bradley, clever that way, let it run. And this is beautiful, and that's so unlucky. What a goal that would have been from Michael Bradley.
It was a great run forward from Matt Beasler to start this attack immediately in transition. But the feint from Michael Bradley sets it up. But as McDowell makes this save, does this ball hit Richards in the arm? No. Great touch of skill from Michael Bradley, top of the 18. Sets up that shot. McDowell in the right spot at the right time.
He's got 5 World Cup qualifying goals in his career, Michael Bradley. winning his 108th cap tonight. I think there might be a problem with the corner flag, which was demolished in that latest incident. Well, following Hungary's win in leg 1 of the European Championship playoffs, there's a second leg on Sunday. Hungary hosting Norway. Coverage beginning 2:30 Eastern on ESPN and available too on the Watch ESPN app. They're just feeling a little bit better about things. 1-1, early goals. St. Vincent and the Grenadines ahead early on with a lovely goal from Olex Anderson, the youngster, and USA level with a Bobby Wood header. First game of the semi-final stage. It's crazy, really, isn't it? We're nearly 3 years away from the World Cup and already into the qualifying for it.
31 months, Ian.
Yeah. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds a short amount of time. Bit of drama along the way before that. It's defended by Kevin Francis. He's only 21, the youngster. He plays for the exotically named Jennings Grenades team of Antigua and Barbuda. Some of these players are unemployed, by the way. There is an unemployment problem on the islands. A bit of homelessness as well. So a relatively poor area, but with tourism as a growing part of the economy. Lovely place to go as well. I think Mick Jagger's got a house there, hasn't he?
Well, I mean, you just look at the story of their captain, Darren Hamlet. He's a Coast Guard from 8 to 4 every day, goes to training, and then afterwards goes back and works as a Coast Guard.
Yep, it's great, isn't it? What an experience for these players, but they won't want to go home with a heavy defeat, you know, wanting to represent their island nation proudly, and so far they've done that as well. Here's Cameron for the US. Yedlin.
Hey, hey, hey! Come on! Just watching Anderson and Yedlin go at each other, you wonder how much of Anderson did his homework, how much of Anderson studied. Did he train with the Seattle Sounders? Has he ever trained against DeAndre Yedlin? Does he know those inside and outs when Yedlin goes forward? Anderson's done very well tonight for himself, 25 minutes in.
I think he only came to Seattle Sounders this year, Olex Anderson, so he might not have seen much of DeAndre Yedlin.
But all of his teammates, he could have played with a couple teammates that gave him a couple pointers on, listen, Yedlin always loves to do this when he gets inside 20 yards.
Yeah, I'm sure he did his homework. He scored a stack of goals as well when he was loaned out to a club in Antigua. Here's Jones. It's interesting to hear him talk about his position. Of course, he'll be 35 if he does make it to the next World Cup. But he says, well, I'll carry on in there every time they want to call me up, and it's up to somebody to rip the place away from me, and they haven't yet. Which is exactly right, really. Yedlin, another good ball, Wood, and then Zardes had a chance, but rather snatched at it.
A bright spot of this United States team tonight has been the activity of Bobby Wood. He's been on the back shoulder of the two center backs. He's found his seams. Good little touch here to lay it off to Zardes, and Zardes hasn't been as clean this first half. 3 or 4 bad touches in his hold-up play. That's an opportunity that we saw time and time again from Zardes in his first year in Major League Soccer, where that second year he cleaned up his finishing much better than that opportunity there.
Good play by Johnson to set up Altidore. There's Wood again, and it should have been 2-1, but it isn't. Johnson getting on the end of it, couldn't finish it.
When you're seeing Josie Altidore have a couple words with Bobby Wood, just begging for him to hold his run here. It's difficult for Bobby Wood to have a look over his back shoulder. Might have been a better idea there for Josie Altidore to cut inside and maybe look for that run from Fabian Johnson himself.
Don't think he would have counted, because I think Wood was offside in the build-up. That's confirmed by the free kick given. Well, Johnson could feel a little bit better about that. But the main thing from the US's point of view is chances are being created. Ream seems to be making that left-back position his own just at the moment, with DeMarcus Beasley now off the scene after his sterling efforts for so long.
Ian, we're 28 minutes in. I looked at you a couple hours ago. It was difficult prepping for this game with what's going on in Paris. It's a tough moment right now to be so worried about a game when I know where my thoughts and prayers are at the present time.
Yeah, absolutely echo those sentiments, of course, Taylor. It is a little surreal that the sport does go on. There were people who went to that match tonight in Paris, of course, and never came home. Altidore brought down on the edge of the box.
And tonight we're kicking off the World Cup qualifying cycle for Russia, and I think a big talking point is which Jozy Altidore are we going to see before that World Cup in Russia? Are we going to see the form that we saw in 2013 where he dominated games, went on goal-scoring streaks game in and game out? I think that this is the World Cup qualifying cycle and the World Cup in Russia. That will be how Jozy Altidore is remembered for his legacy in the United States national team jersey.
He's blown hot and cold a little bit.
He's only 26 still, though.
Yeah.
Think of that. The prime of his career is right now.
Well, Altidore and Fabian Johnson lining this one up. It's Johnson, and it's in the back of the net. Maybe by a deflection. Goalkeepers seem to be wrong-footed by something, but Johnson is on the score sheet, and the US are ahead.
To think over a month ago, Jurgen Klinsmann called out Fabian Johnson for his attitude in the CONCACAF Cup game against Mexico. Tonight, Fabian Johnson's been the best player, the most dangerous player for the United States, either coming out of the midfield, a lucky deflection, but a big moment for Fabian Johnson.
It's his goal, though. It was
Right
on,
here.
it was
No
on
doubt about
target,
it.
despite the deflection. It was a big one, as I thought as well. The goalkeeper had no chance at all. It's only the second time Fabian Johnson's scored for the United States. The other one was an absolutely wonderful goal against Turkey in the build-up to the World Cup. Normal service resumed. US ahead after the scary start. Cameron. Johnson again. Zardes with another opportunity. Hooked out of harm's way in the end by the debutant Prescott.
And you want to keep in perspective who the opponent is here tonight, but obviously you have to ask the question to Jurgen Klinsmann and his staff immediately after this game. How can you find a back four that allows Fabian Johnson to play in the midfield? 31 minutes in tonight, he's been the class of this game, head and shoulders above everyone else.
Real argy-bargy there, isn't there, on the near post. And of course, they don't have officials behind the goal as they do in Champions League games.
And keep in mind, this is usually Michael Bradley taking this set piece. Now it's Fabian Johnson with Bradley sitting right in front of the goalkeeper, McDowell.
Off the side of this. And a flicked on header, and then Altidore scores on the back post. 3-1. And the US beginning to race away now, and that looked like something right off the training ground, and it worked a treat.
You knew coming into this game the United States could easily impose their will on set pieces. Yes, a deflection helps Fabian Johnson. I love this ball in from Johnson for Jermaine Jones. Any kind of deflection, Jozy Altidore naked on the back post. That's well done from both Jermaine Jones and Jozy Altidore, finishing the play out.
Jozy Altidore becomes only the 5th player in American soccer history to score 30 goals for his country.
What a clever run. What a clever run. He loses his runner by coming inside the goal. The runner gets caught, and that melee in front of the goalkeeper, wide open on the back post.
Wood's been very bright, and he's used the ball usually pretty well. That was a rare example of him not, but his movement's been good. He looks to me, Bobby Wood, like a player improving all the time. But Josie Altidore behind Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Eric Winalda and Brian McBride on 30 goals now for his country. This is his 88th cap tonight. Donovan got there in 87. Big moment for him, and that's after the last 8 goals he scored being in friendly matches. This is a competitive one, of course.
Keep an eye on the run from Jeff Cameron, trying to get near post.
Johnson plays it in, as Cameron was trying to get there, just as you said. And then Jones with the effort, which whistles wide. But this does look like something, this goal, that they worked on in training.
It does, but when that ball is deflected from Jermaine Jones, Josie Altidore is completely onside. But I love that run. He goes all the way inside the goal. Look at this. So now his marker completely loses sight of him. Deflection from Jermaine Jones. Simple finish.
It's a little bit naive, to be honest, of the St. Vincent and Grenadines defence. Yeah. It's the old argument, isn't it? If you leave somebody on both posts defending, that goal probably doesn't happen. But so many teams don't do it. Altidore with a little flick on. You can see the confidence beginning to flow through the veins a little now of this US side. Cameron. Bradley. Ream, who's allowed to play as high as he wants, really, as a fullback on that side. He does have McBurnett to mark, but he isn't seeing the ball at all. Neither's Anderson on the left now, not after the opening sensational piece of action he was involved in.
We've seen absolutely nothing from Slater up front, though.
I don't think he's touched it, hardly, so far, Tevin Slater, but when he does touch it, he's liable to do something special, according to the stats. He's got 5 goals in World Cup qualifying already. That's leading the early CONCACAF qualifying stakes. Bradley to Ream. Now Johnson. Big hats off to the people of St. Louis who've supported this game in huge numbers tonight as well. Altidore. France has got it away for the moment, but there's a feeling that the next wave is never far away. Beasler forward to Bradley, looking to go to his 3rd World Cup in Russia. Scored on his first World Cup, great goal against Slovenia in the comeback. All seem to be comebacks at that World Cup. Here's Jermaine Jones. Easily wrong-footed Anderson that time. Altidore, look at this. And then Bradley with the finishing effort, which the goalkeeper saw late, clearly. Got a touch on it, corner.
Great cut in the corner from Jermaine Jones to find Josie Altidore, but listen, I'll have a good argument, a good discussion with Josie Altidore there. You have no problem if your star center forward brings that down on his chest and has a hit himself. Good layoff from Michael Bradley. Keep an eye on that near post, wide open for Jeff Cameron.
This time it's a longer one from Johnson. The whole game now being played in the St. Vincent and Grenadines half of the pitch. There's Tim Ream. He was a big schoolboy star in this part of the world, went to the university here as well, an award-winning player, playing at Fulham in England. Look at Altidore, he's in the mood tonight, all right, Josie Altidore. And that's the kind of form the US need him in. It's Cameron again seems to have an extra layer of confidence, it seems to me, just lately.
Well, I think a big part of that is consistently playing over in England and playing in the same position. How often was he coming to the national team, him playing right back, then Jurgen Klinsmann playing him at defensive midfield or at center back? He's playing center back in England, steps right in here, looks much more confident than he has in years past.
I think it's where he wants to play, where Jurgen Klinsmann wants to play him as well. If he's playing this well, the USA, perhaps in rebuilding this team, need to do it from the back. Yedlin is away by Francis.
But on that point, Ian, scoreline's 3-1, you would have to think that the young center back, Matt Miazga, is cap-tied in this second half. And that may be the future center back of this national team over the years to come.
Yeah, I know you like him. We might see him later. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're going to see him later because Poland want him as well. He does have Polish ancestry. And we've been on the phone trying to get him to play for them. So the sensible move really is to get him to play at some point in this game, and then he can't play for Poland. He's got to be a USA player. I think he wants to be a USA player. It's as simple as that. He's an interesting player. He's been making a good impression in New York. Johnson, Altidore, Johnson again with those. And look at this lovely football here. Wood again, fantastic save from the goalkeeper. Very well played. Winslow McDowell to stop that one. Great football though by the US. Wood's hurt. Knocked on by Slater. That was almost his first involvement, trying to link up with Gavin James. Isn't really working at the moment. Two strikers looks a bit of a luxury really for St Vincent and the Grenadines. I think they need one of them to come back and help out in midfield a bit more, and I think that's what Slater's starting to do now, funnel back. That's Fabian Johnson again. Starting to play with a bit of swagger against the United States, but it is worth just recapping the big gap. 96 places on the FIFA rankings and full-time professionals against part-timers. Look at the possession. That is sky high, 85%, almost unheard of. That's tough, isn't it? When you're chasing shadows like that, the whole game very tough on the legs, and maybe the minds get tired too of the St Vincent and Grenadines player. They're keeping their shape, they're working as hard as they can, but it's tough, and they knew it would be.
But listen, the United States have had their fair share of defending for long stretches of the game. Look at the CONCACAF Cup game against Mexico. They chased that game for long periods of time. And I think that's a big talking point in this World Cup qualifying cycle. Are we going to see that quote-unquote proactive style of play that Jurgen Klinsmann's been preaching about over the last 3 or 4 years?
I think they've just got to concentrate on grinding out the points at the moment, to be quite honest with you. So right, talking about Russia, you've got to get there first.
Well, it's almost like starting over, isn't it, Ian? You want to confirm your base of the team, your two center backs, your goalkeeper, and build from the back. And I think that's a big talking point for what Klinsmann wants out of this semifinal round of qualifying.
He wants to see this moving forward. Lovely play by Anderson again. He does look a good player. I know you were talking yesterday. They think he's got a future with Seattle Sounders in the first team.
No doubt about it. They said it from the opening start of next year. He will be in the Seattle Sounders first team camp. He scored 4 goals this year for Seattle Sounders too. Very explosive and very dynamic, taking on defenders one-on-one.
He looks a prospect, that's for certain. A rare foray forward here from the Caribbean island nation. It's rather wasted, and there was nobody on the near post. It's interesting that with teams, so often corners are cut out by the first defender. You saw what can happen if you get someone ahead of that first defender and get a flick on, you're liable to get a goal. It's exactly what happened with Altidore's goal. Here he is now. Bradley. Johnson. Freedom of the park for Bradley to hit one, and it skids just wide. It was dipping too. And the goalkeeper is saying to his defenders, how about closing him down?
Well, the last thing you want to do is have Michael Bradley step forward from 23, 22 yards out with zero pressure on the ball whatsoever. Just watching Michael Bradley pick his spots when he's going forward tonight. He seems much more comfortable with Fabian Johnson next to him on the left-hand side.
I think you made a good point, Taylor. Having Fabian Johnson in there, there's a few more attacking ideas with his running, but it is against this quality of opposition. Whether that can be done against higher grade opposition is a question, of course.
Well, it goes back to our initial discussion. You have to establish who your back four is. So against higher quality competition, who's your starting left back? Because if you can find a left back and Yedlin's your right back, then it gives you the luxury of putting Fabian Johnson in the midfield to give you some kind of quality going forward.
Here's Jones. It was a sloppy ball that time from Bradley. Doesn't often do that. It was just overhit a bit.
It's a great spot. Great spot from Jeff Cameron to pick out that counter.
A lot of space to work with. A lot of time to think. And to be fair to the US, given them a fair bit of criticism recently, they're using that space and time, as they must do. Here's Yedlin. Altidore. Picked a good pass there, Yedlin. Bradley, he's picked another one too, to Johnson. And they're just working the little angles here. Here's Johnson again. Almost too easy. No real pressure on the ball. Just getting yellow shirts behind it and more or less saying to the US, well, come on, see if you can break us down. Well, they have been breaking them down. Bradley chipped forward to Zardes. Was he onside? Yeah, the flag stayed down. Coming up in the 5-hour Energy halftime report with Bob and Casey. First half analysis here and a World Cup qualifying update.
I think Argentina and Brazil are playing tonight, Ian.
Yeah, they are. Argentina are 1-0 up in that. More about that at half-time. Need the win too. Cameron, he wants to join in the attack. Here's Jassi Zardes. To Yedlin. Dispossessed. Anderson, very much the danger man. He does look like the player who might make something happen for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Just a minute of added time at the end of the half. Ream. Cut out that time by Prescott, the right back making his debut, a teacher at the age of 30. Got something to tell the kids when he goes back, hasn't he?
Well, it depends. The kids may have something to tell the teacher.
Yeah. Well, they've done fantastically just getting to this stage. Anything else is a bonus, but they do want more, of course. And he lost 1 out of 10 games playing against other Caribbean nations on their recent run. Hamlet to lay it forward. He's the Coast Guard officer playing in midfield. Heavy touch from McBurnett, who hasn't really been able to get into the game on that side. He's having a little go now, though. Usually on the bench, having to start tonight with the injuries they've had. That is half-time, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be glad of the respite. Great goal from Bobby Wood to get the US level after Olex Anderson had scored. Fabian Johnson gets the goal, though it's very much a deflection. And then a third one from Altidore. 3-1 the US lead in this first World Cup qualifier. Let's hand it over to Bob and Casey.
Thanks, guys. This was a gold-plated disaster, Casey, after 5 minutes, but it has morphed generally and rather convincingly into a clinic, which is exactly what the U.S. needed.
Well, sometimes you play against an opposition like this, and it's just mentally you just start slow because you just have that expectation that it's going to be so easy. Well, they got the wake-up call after 3 minutes. There's no question about that. But after that, it was really as expected. The U.S. dominating possession tremendously, creating several goal-scoring chances. It's 3-1 at halftime, Bob, but it very easily could be 5 or 6.
We'll see if they move to cap tie Miazga in the second half will be made. Fabian Johnson playing so effectively in the midfield. 3-1 the United States as they begin a long trek towards Russia. The 217th World Cup qualifying match played in the United States, finally taking those first strides with now a convincing lead at the half. More to come here in St. Louis at the break.
Welcome back to St. Louis. Goals for the USA after a shocking start when they conceded to Olex Anderson, the Seattle Sounders striker, and unthinkably St. Vincent and the Grenadines led here, but the US got 3 in 20 minutes and are back on track, Taylor.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this second half you want to have just a little bit more urgency, play two-touch, get this St. Vincent and Grenadines defense chasing the game. We know fitness is an issue. Many of these players semi-professional. Get them chasing the game, get the 4th, get the 5th goal, and get out of here with 3 points.
Yes, that's absolutely mandatory. Some of the St. Vincent and Grenadines fans, by the way, took a bus, I'm told, from New York overnight to get here to St. Louis to support their team. So hats off to them, and I think they're going to enjoy the occasion, whatever the result. There are the goals. 2 in the first 11 minutes of the game. We could scarcely believe that beginning with Olex Anderson. He's been good, hasn't he, scoring for St. Vincent?
He's really been the only threat going forward. He's had a couple opportunities coming forward, particularly on the counter, catching DeAndre Yedlin out of position. But the first half was all about Bobby Wood and Fabian Johnson having their way going forward.
Mistake by Yedlin straight away, and Anderson was in behind him. And that was just a lapse in concentration by DeAndre Yedlin, and that could have been costly. Here's Michael Bradley. If you drew up a list of players who you'd regard as rock-solid certainties to play in the World Cup finals in Russia, should the United States get there, it would be quite a short list at the moment. There'd be questions about quite a lot of players, but it's interesting when they played Antigua and Barbuda, yes, in the first game.
Only 4 of those 11 went to the World Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. So things change, and quite fast. Miss Bradley was playing in that game, as was Jermaine Jones. Zardes hustled out of it. Good pressing that time, and you can see, I think they've been told they've got to put more pressure on the ball, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because they're spending a long time without it. At one point, the US had 85% of the possession. That was the stat. That's too much, really. And here's Jones. Goes down, looks at the referee, and the referee, Mr. Solis from Costa Rica, is not interested. McBurnett needs some period of possession if they can get it. Hamlet does well that time, and then the debutant Bowens helps it forward, but again they just cannot keep the ball, and this is what tends to happen when the class gap is very big. Beasler, Fabian Johnson looking for a 1-2 with Altidore. Now Bradley. Not that time. Can they hold it for more than 10 seconds or so? Roy Richards' ball forward is not accurate enough, and back it'll come again. Hey. It is a mighty, mighty tough task for them, and they'll be in action again as early as Tuesday with a home game, St. Vincent and the Grenadines against Guatemala. Oh, Zardes was good there, getting away from Richards, looking to slide the cross in. Will be a corner.
Those are the types of movements, though, tonight Jurgen Klinsmann wants to see from Giazzi Zardes. He has felt over the last 4 or 5 appearances for that man in a United States national team jersey, he's been too reliant on his athleticism. Yes, he'll cover a ton of ground defensively, but when he's got to find the game and find those seams and combine with the right back behind him.
Jones to play this one in. Oh, and Matt Beasler thought he might have been on the score sheet there, and perhaps he should have been.
Just between the ears, being aware, short corner here, a quick one. You love the recognition from Johnson to find Jermaine Jones, and now it sets up with the St. Vincent Grenadines. Back four is looking around. They can't find their marks. Unlucky from Matt Beasler.
It might be a question of damage limitation, a little here for St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
But to go back to my thought on Giazzi Zardes, Ian, I think a big talking point is what is his best position? Is he a natural right midfielder where he's got to think the game, he'll put in the work defensively, or is he an out-and-out striker?
To be decided, I think. Johnson is having a very good game. He looked to cut that back towards Wood. It evaded him and Zardes. And there is Jermaine Jones from exactly the position he scored against Portugal so memorably at the World Cup.
And almost the same type of play, a ball whipped in, Jermaine Jones, top of the 18. It's gonna be very difficult to replicate that finish against Portugal in the World Cup. What was your goal call, by the way?
I can't remember now, but he caught it sweetly.
I think you said it was an absolute cracker.
Well, I'm glad you can remember it. I can never remember anything like that. But it was exciting, though. My goodness me, how well the US played in that game against Portugal. It did end in a draw, but the US deserved to win it, and win it handsomely, I thought, anyway. Different days, though. Different mood, different time now, and different questions facing the team. Bowens could make no progress. The ball is lost in midfield, and here's another opportunity for Bobby Wood to cause some havoc. On and on he goes, and that would have been a splendid solo goal for him, but for the goalkeeper, McDowell, is having a fine game.
The third time tonight, McDowell's come up big with a big-time save. This is the Bobby Wood we've seen in 2015 come off the bench, be explosive one-on-one, taking players on, but McDowell with his third big save tonight.
Looking the part, the Hawaiian, Bobby Wood. Flicked on again, and Cameron this time, and it's another goal! Jeff Cameron for the United States, 4-1. His third goal in a USA shirt.
And the third goal tonight for the United States that's come off of set pieces. They worked on it all day long yesterday in training, delivering a ball near post, look for any kind of deflection, and then finishing the back post run. In the first half, it was Josie Altidore. In the second half here tonight, it's Jeff Cameron. The United States easily walking away into this game. Great ball in, though, from Johnson for that deflection from Bobby Wood. That's a simple flick on and an easy finish for Cameron.
It's one that the coaches can feel very happy about, really. They've obviously worked on that on training. It's an idea they've had, and it's paid off with 2 goals. Just the near post flick on. It's been used for years. It's very rarely used, and I've often wondered why, by quite a few teams now. Here's Cameron again, off the outside of the boot to Zardes. Jones might have gone the other way. Cameron once more, Wood round the corner. Slid in, cut out by Roy Richards, but what's the decision there? It looked like a goal kick, is it? Well, he's given the corner. He's given the corner. The USA's record win, by the way, ever is 8-0 against Barbados in a qualifier in 2008. And you do wonder how many this might be at the end of it. This time they've gone for a different routine, a bit of a strange one, back to Yedlin, who was fully 35 yards out. That goal by Jeff Cameron, by the way, is second in the last 3 matches. He also scored against Mexico in that big CONCACAF Cup game at the Rose Bowl, to no avail in the end, of course. USA won't be going to the Confed Cup. That was very much part of Jurgen Klinsmann's plan. It's Johnson once more. Altidore turning, looking for the half-yard, and then he lost his balance at the crucial moment. What's been impressive, I think, from the US here tonight is, okay, there is the big gap, but how quickly they've got the ball back on the very rare occasions that they've lost it. Which is a good habit. Bradley. Here's Yedlin. Meteoric rise from him, first from Akron University to the Seattle Sounders team, to the World Cup where he took the eye, and now to the English Premier League. And now a regular in the USA. It's the first time he's played a qualifier, this, by the way. Altidore won't get anything for that. He's going down rather too easily. He knew it. I think the goalkeeper knew he was going to have a busy night, didn't he, Taylor?
And it's a safe assumption there, but Ian, it's difficult for me to overreact and be so positive about the United States. When you look at the opponent, with all due respect, they're defending 20 yards from goal, and any kind of possession, they can't keep it for longer than 2 or 3 passes. So while, yes, the United States, you have to play the game and play the opponent in front of you, I don't think it squashes any of the questions that still remain for this team under Klinsmann.
Yeah, Tuesday will tell us more, won't it? Away to Trinidad and Tobago. That's a tougher assignment by a long way.
And Ian, I think there's a talking point there as well. Brad Guzan starts tonight. Tim Howard starts Tuesday. Jurgen Klinsmann wanting to keep both goalkeepers happy, but at the present time, if you ask me to pick 1A, 1B, Tim Howard starting in Trinidad on Tuesday tells me he's 1A.
It's an interesting idea, isn't it, that? This time Zardes looking to get on the end of it. 1 or 2 tired legs now among those defenders. Have already had to do a lot of work. Now then, here's Tevin Slater. We've heard a lot about him going into the game, but he hasn't really been able to make much of an impression so far. Only 20 years old, a fisherman by trade. Obviously has something about nets.
He's got 5 goals in this World Cup qualifying cycle.
Yep, he got 3 in the 2 games against Guyana, and he scored in both of the games against Aruba.
But to go back to that point of Tim Howard and Brad Guzan, it's not the first time Jurgen Klinsmann's had that kind of discussion and controversy. Remember Jens Lehmann and Oliver Kahn with the German national team in 2006.
Yeah, I think he just wants to keep both of them happy, doesn't he? I think that's the situation, and really it's a nice problem to have in a way. If he had 2 players as good as that in the other positions, the USA would be laughing. Yedlin across towards Altidore. Ball has gone out of play. European playoffs continuing Tuesday, second leg of the Denmark game against Sweden. Zlatan Ibrahimovic in action there. Of course, coverage beginning 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2, and it's on Watch ESPN, the app, as well. Goalkeeper can't seem to kick the ball now. And France is kicking out. I don't know if he's got a leg injury or something, or whether that was part of the plan from the word go. Ream, who's useful to have around because he can play central defence as well. He's another one playing his first World Cup qualifier tonight, Tim Ream. And what a place for him to do it, where he grew up. Special night. It's Fabian Johnson. Altidore. Flip forward, Zardes with a big opportunity and makes it count. It's 5 and counting. Good move, too.
Almost an identical chance Jazzy Zardes had in the first half. Josie Altidore coming into the midfield, dropping deep, so now it allows Jazzy Zardes to step forward. He had this chance in the first half, hit it wide. This one, perfect. Low, on target, back of the net. Good finish for his third goal in the United States national team jersey.
But you have to say this is less than resolute defending by St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who just give him all the time he wants to pick his spot.
Well, and a lot of that comes off the movement from Josie Altidore because he drops into the midfield. Both center backs having a difficult time tracking Altidore in that spot. Zardes picks that run. Good finish.
All his caps in this calendar year, 2015. That's his third goal for his country. And here comes a change that's going to be made. Vasbert Ledger will replace Gavin James, who hasn't had much of a look in, despite the fact that his non-league club in England, Maidenhead United, caused a bit of a shock by holding a League One side, Port Vale, to a draw in the FA Cup the other day. So that's that change, and another change as well for the tiring St. Vincent and Grenadines side. They're going to bring on Solomon as well. Now then, the interesting story here is going to be the introduction of Matt Miazga. This is the player Poland won. He plays for New York Red Bulls. He's a regular starter, and if he plays for the USA tonight, he's America's player. Poland can't have him, so Jurgen Klinsmann isn't going to miss that trick, is he? He's going to come on soon.
Well, and it also looks like Darlington Nabby, who's been a player that's been talked about for the last 4 or 5 years in the MLS circles about representing the United States over the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's really come into his own, actually playing more in the middle, and Jordan Morris as well. So you're talking about, Ian, 3 young players that will be a huge part of this World Cup qualifying cycle. Look like they're coming in for the United States.
It's a luxury that Jurgen Klinsmann can afford, of course, with this kind of lead. Just the ideal opportunity at the right kind of time. He was waiting for a bit of a break, Jurgen Klinsmann. He's been a little dispirited, I think, by the failure of rather too many of the players he has given a chance to make a statement. So it's going to be a triple substitution. Jordan Morris, as well as Miazga and Darlington Nagbe of Portland Timbers. There's an attacking player who was born in Liberia. He's now a US citizen. He's just become a US citizen. Jordan Morris is a bustling striker from Stanford University. He's got a few clubs eyeing up, offering him professional terms.
And I'm watching Jurgen Klinsmann talk to Darlington Nagbe. Who would have thought a kid at Akron, University of Akron, would be making his debut here in St. Louis, and Jurgen Klinsmann's giving him instructions.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's been a long time for Darlington Nagbe to put on the United States national team jersey, and many fans at home have been waiting for this moment.
Is Anderson making another of those runs? He's been the one real attacking threat so far from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who yet again can't keep the ball for more than a few seconds, and that's been the story. That's not an incrimination of them, because they're up against it, of course. This will be a test of their fitness as well. More or less to do as they please in that midfield. Strolling around, running the game. Michael Bradley, Fabian Johnson, Jermaine Jones. Cameron to lay it forward. Altidore, he's on the score sheet as well. 5 different scorers so far. Somebody will fancy themselves for a hat-trick. It might be Bobby Wood or Josie Altidore, if they stay on the pitch, of course. He's got a mind as well, hasn't he, now to Tuesday. He can afford to rest one of his key players, can't he, here, if he wants to.
Well, I think you would expect Nagbe's probably coming in either for Fabian Johnson, Jazzy Zardes, and you probably think Miazga. There you go.
Yeah, Fabian
answer
Johnson
right now.
That is, there's no question of any kind of knock this time after the story of a month or so ago. Fabian Johnson is being wrapped in cotton wool and saved for a big job in Port of Spain on Tuesday, because he's a key player. And I think maybe now there's a little reminder here. He can probably offer the team more from midfield.
No doubt about it. I don't think there's any question about it. The problem for Jurgen Klinsmann is who then plays left back in a big moment.
Or right back even, if DeAndre Yedlin is. So on comes Darlington Nagbe of Portland Timbers. Big moment, a debut for the US at the age of 25 as well. Fascinated to see what he can do. Jeff Cameron's come off as well, obviously a key player at the back. Michael Bradley does a bit of talking, the other players, making those players welcome in the camp this week. That's important too, that they feel part of it all and not strangers walking into a clique. And that has happened, happily.
There are moments in your career you remember for a lifetime, and one of those is your debut for your national team.
See what they do, eh? Good luck. I'm sure friends and family, and many of them are looking on and wishing him all the best. And you would wish any player that, of course. Hamlet trying to battle away, but here is Altidore not quite able to control it on this occasion. It's a harsh thing and maybe a horrible thing to say when you think about St. Vincent and the Grenadines and their slightly romantic story getting to this stage, but the USA have to be ruthless here, don't they? They can't let up. There's a job to do. This is a World Cup qualifier as well. By the way, before that second game, Bobby Wood will have his 23rd birthday on Sunday. Here's Miazga's first involvement. Tall, elegant defender. Heard him talking yesterday, and he sounded a confident guy. He felt like he belonged at this kind of level. Altidore back, and then Zardes wants another one. The goalkeeper nearly made a horrible howler there, but he deserved that not to go in the way he's played.
The second time in this second half, we've seen good combination play between Zardes and Josie Altidore up front. For the goal from Zardes a couple moments ago, we had Altidore coming in the midfield, then lay it off for Zardes. It's a good touch. Zardes starting to find the game here in the second half.
Nagbe is going to take the corner kick. It's good delivery too. No blue shirt attacking it though. Nagbe, who moved as a boy to the United States when his mother had to flee the civil war in Liberia. Player down injured here for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so there will be a brief respite. There might be a bit of cramp as well. I think it's Bowens who's down. Feeling the pace of it, yeah, it's cramp. And there might be a bit of that as well. Second leg of the Hungary-Norway tie coming up on Sunday for you, 2:30 Eastern on ESPN. Hungary won the first game by a 1-0, so that's quite nicely poised. It's also available on the Watch ESPN app as well. Looking more relaxed at last, Jurgen Klinsmann. He has been under a little bit of pressure from some sections of the fans. There's Tab Ramos behind him, part of the coaching team. So far, no goals in the other game being played in this group tonight. Guatemala against Trinidad and Tobago.
I think we also have to talk about, this is Juan Carlos Osorio's start of his tenure as a Mexico national team coach. In South Africa, Ian, they've had 8 coaches.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
I think a big talking point is, does he make it all the way through?
Well, exactly. You do wonder. Mexico made it from the skin of their teeth. Bobby Wood's excellent performance is over, and he will be replaced by Jordan Morris, another that Jurgen Klinsmann has some hopes of. A few clubs looking at him out there, Taylor.
Well, and I think that's a huge storyline is over the next 6 to 8 weeks, Jordan Morris will turn pro. You have to bet on that. Now, whether or not he takes what has been reported a Academy player record offer from the Seattle Sounders, or does he try to go to Europe? But keep in mind, Jordan Morris is a big part of that Olympic team trying to qualify for the Olympics. They've got that home and home against Colombia.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see where Jordan Morris decides to turn pro and give it a shot.
It's very important as well, I think, for the kudos of US soccer to get to the Olympic Games.
Well, especially because the Confed Cup is no longer in there. You want those young players being tested. In the last World Cup qualifying cycle, they didn't have that either.
Yeah, it's vital tournament experience for them, but it's not going to be easy, is it? Colombia's under-23 side are likely to be on the useful side, you would think.
But Ian, you and I were talking about this throughout the week. It's not that important for every country. It's just important for the United States.
Yeah, that's right. It's important for Brazil as well, by the way, because they've never won the gold medal, and they really want to win it.
I have to double read that every time I see that.
Yeah.
That the Brazil Olympic team has never won a gold medal.
Well, it looked like they were going to win one in London at Wembley, but of course it was Mexico's moment of triumph. Jones plays this one forward. Nagbe joining in straight away into the action is Morris's first involvement. And again, nice ball. Zardes couldn't quite get the elevation he wanted because Altidore was in space on the back post.
This the United States having their way with possession, having their way with absolutely no pressure on the ball, 20 yards from goal. And Giazzi Zardes has been active in this second half.
Here we are again. They've been working on these corner routines. Loads of players, and that one came off the crossbar by the look of it in the end. They've even been working on trying to score direct, haven't they, from corners?
Especially when Michael Bradley has taken the set piece. We saw in the first half this was Fabian Johnson. But over the last 6-7 months, Michael Bradley can hit an in-swinger on a dime. Little touch from Matt Beasler.
Yeah.
Unlucky for that not to hit underside of the bar, but Michael Bradley has made that simple. Every time he's taking an in-swinger, it's on a dime.
It's too easy, really, but that was nearly a hat-trick of goals from the same routine. The near-post flick-on. OK, Beasler was a bit further towards the goal that time. It was his back header that flicked off the bar. He might have had two tonight, Beasler. I think they all want to get on the score sheet here. They all fancy one. Here's Nagbe. Fascinating to see him in the US shirt. Really would be a big bonus for Jurgen Klinsmann if both he and Miazga could become big players he can rely on in big games, rather than players who just hang around the fringes of the team. It's a big step to have to make, though, for anybody. It doesn't happen easy. Here's Nagbe. Yedlin, who's trying to make that journey to become a reliable member of the side. Here he is again, Nagbe. Going to go past a couple of players. Roy Richards was in the way, one of the more experienced players in the St. Vincent and Grenadines side, but they are in survival mode here, really, at the moment, the visiting side. Players slipping over, that's for certain. Zardes working very hard. And Bowens is the player who had cramp recently, and he might be struggling again here. It doesn't kind of go away, does it, Taylor, that one? It's horrible.
Especially for 73 minutes when you've been chasing the game, trying to defend, dealing with Michael Bradley and Jermaine Jones coming out of the midfield.
Yeah, a baptism of fire, you could say, in the shirt. Cut out by Yedlin. They've only once in their history beaten a non-Caribbean nation, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That was against Nicaragua. They played 24 games at the semi-final stage of World Cup qualifying. They've only won 2. That was against St. Kitts and Nevis both times, and one of those games had to be delayed because Hurricane Ivan was on its way at the time. And are in the hurricane belt. Altidore took a bit of a knock from behind there from Doran Hamlet. Well, you can only beat the opposition in front of you, and the USA are doing that in the style that they were expected to do, barring that early scare. Bradley again. Good ball forward, wasn't it, from Jermaine Jones to Jassi Zardes. Oh, they're picking the passes. It's Altidore. This will be some goal if it goes in the end. And that's exactly what happens. Josie Altidore again via a hint of a deflection. 6-1. USA leading. And it's in danger of becoming a humiliation now for St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
They've been no match for the United States in this second half, and they've been defending 20 yards from their own goal. Great combination between Jermaine Jones, Jassi Zardes. But this is the hold-up play that Jurgen Klinsmann, the United States, desperately need from Josie Altidore. And yes, there's a deflection, fine, fair enough. But it's the hold-up play, the strength, and the ability to get a shot off close range. Jassi Zardes, Jermaine Jones, combining with Josie Altidore for his 31st goal in the United States national team jersey.
Yeah, on he moves. Kevin Francis, it came off, but it will be Altidore's goal because the original shot was on target. Substitute coming up here, Dan Roy Edwards will be introduced, third and final substitute for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 6-1. Could the United States hit 9 in a game for the first time in their history? You'd have to say that might be possible. Deandre Yedlin down here. And he certainly doesn't want anything. I mean, it does look a little bit nasty, that the way he's just thumping his leg down as if he's in a bit of pain over there.
It's hard to tell. But now this is the part of the game where you have to be extremely professional if you're the United States, Ian. Frustration is set in for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They will challenge, they will come in hard, two-touch passing, keep the ball moving, and get out of this game with no injuries and move on to Tuesday.
Looks like Yedlin's okay. It's quite a feather in the cap, isn't it, of the University of Akron, both him and Nagbe, products of the university in the USA team now.
Well, they've been producing players throughout the years for MLS teams here. It's no secret.
Yeah. It's an easy ride, really, for Matt Miazga so far because there just aren't any attacks from the opposition. Is Altidore. Nagbe looking for a debut goal, and why not? Well, he'll want to get used to the idea of wearing that shirt.
The Portland Timbers are in the Western Conference Final for a big reason, because Darlington Nagbe moved from a wide spot and has been central. He's been dominant over the last 5 or 6 weeks. For the last 4 or 5 years, you're watching him, he looks like a wide player, but he seems to be in his comfort zone for Caleb Porter and the Portland Timbers, playing in the middle.
Yeah, and the fact that they've had this run in the playoffs means he stayed sharp as well. That Jurgen Klinsmann was telling us that's been a little bit of a problem for the players whose season ended early, to try to keep them with a bit of an edge all the way through to this game.
He mainly pointed out that the struggles at Toronto FC with Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley, but you know, it wasn't 3 or 4 weeks ago.
The players have to be professional about it, don't they, too? They have to have their own personal discipline to do all the training and keep that sharpness. But it can be easier said than done. Bradley to help it forward again. Here's Nagbe once more. Yedlin. It's just the perfect time to come in and make your debut as well. Team on top, lots of space. Ream this time. This time Jordan Morris, I fancy, was looking to turn into space himself. Just a bit of a heavy touch on that occasion. Here is Miazga. Everybody has to start somewhere, of course. For him, it's here. Got a bit of pace about him, hasn't he, too?
Yeah, he's quicker than you look initially. He can run in the channels. Ian, he absolutely last year got berated in front of everyone on national television by Thierry Henry. And so many young players at that moment would have put their heads between their legs and been shy about it. This year, arguably, he was in the discussion for MLS Defender of the Year. You said it when he came on. He doesn't look like the moment's too big for him. He looks very comfortable. I think Matt Miazga is going to be a center back for the future for years to come for Klinsmann and for whoever else in the future. He's 20.
Let's hope he fulfills your prediction, Taylor.
And I just remember at 20 years old watching Omar Gonzalez. Matt Miazga is a better center back at this time than Omar Gonzalez was, and I was very high on Gonzalez at this stage.
That is Miazga with the header. Gonzalez, one of those who's a bit out of favor with the national team at the moment. A player, of course, who played and did okay, really, at the World Cup in Brazil. Miazga to help it forward. Here's Nagbe once more. Jones looking for a little reverse ball, and they've not been frightened to try something a little bit different by way of improvisation. The creativity has been pretty good. Nagbe again.
Ian, where do you think Jermaine Jones ends up? It's a massive decision for him club-wise over the next 2 months. Where does he end up? At the age of 34? Does he stay in Major League Soccer? Does he move to Mexico? Does he try to find an 18th-month contract in Europe?
Well, it's a big decision, isn't it? And of course, from Jurgen Klinsmann's point of view, he would love it if Jermaine Jones was to stay fit and available for use for him right the way through to Russia. But that's asking a lot. Solomon losing his feet there. And back come the USA again. It's going to be one of the biggest wins that they've had. Is Morris. Just looking to bend one off the outside of his right foot. He didn't want to hit it with his left, though, did he? No, but Jermaine Jones immediately telling him if he plays it first time, Jose Altidore is in. $43,433 is the excellent attendance, and considering this was seen as a one-horse race, not against a glamour side like a Brazil or Germany, well done to the people of St. Louis. Will they one day have an MLS team here? I wonder. They should have an MLS team. It's just they need an owner and they need a soccer-specific stadium. With all due respect, tonight's been a great night, but you don't want to play Major League Soccer regular season in a baseball field. Most people here are Twelmans, aren't they? Yeah, there's a good amount of my family is represented in this stands, I'll tell you that right now. DeAndre Yedlin, happily he is all right again. Here is Miazga. Altidore's been back on song tonight. Despite blowing hot and cold a bit during the season, he did score 13 MLS goals, put him in the top 10 of the scorers at number 10. Ream to have it forward. Here's Altidore again. Wants a hat-trick, doesn't he, now? I'll tell you what, they have been a bit unlucky, though, haven't they, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from the point of view that 2 of the goals have taken massive deflections. I mean, how's your luck? Could have done without that.
But in fairness, McDowell's made 3 or 4 saves that have stopped other goals as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been one-way traffic since the 5th minute, anyway. Just a question of how many it might end up. US record, as I was saying, 8-0 against Barbados. They also beat them 7-0, 8-1 against the Cayman Islands. Scored 6 before under Jurgen Klinsmann. I think Jermaine Jones here's got a problem. I don't know if that's cramp or there's something with his hamstring, but suddenly he just pulled up, and he's not a player that Klinsmann would want to be without in Port of Spain against Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday. But that doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't, and especially you never want to speculate on an injury, but he comes up immediately, and you think it's his hamstring. He's grabbing it, and that's the big storyline with Jermaine Jones. He's looking right now. Ian, he just made the signal to the bench that isn't a cramp.
Yeah, he has to come off, even if it means playing with 10. That won't matter. 6-1 up, he has to come right off the pitch.
And you know that's what Jurgen's talking about, is with the game on Tuesday. And this is the big storyline with Jermaine Jones. He's 34. He's 34, Ian. Father Time is knocking on the door. How much left can he get out of that?
Yeah. He isn't going to be playing, I'd say, looking at that in Port of Spain. Hamstring takes a little while. Yedlin to play it forward, so that's just put a little cloud in the sky for Jurgen Klinsmann from this night, when 3 points will be pocketed to get the campaign off and running. But this is the easiest game in the group, no question about it. Be a bit tougher against Guatemala and Trinidad and Tobago for certain.
Jermaine Jones, Kyle Beckerman, at their age, they can get you through CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. But I think a big discussion and dilemma for Jurgen Klinsmann, Ian, is what do you do come Russia?
Well, it looks to me like Jones wants to come back on. The way he's hovering around by the touchline, he's holding that hamstring. I mean, I don't know, is that wise? Yeah, he's come back on. Well, I am very surprised by that, aren't you?
Well, whether or not he can go or not, of course. You're up 6-1. You can deal with the last 5 or 7 minutes of this game. Down a man.
Yeah. I'd have thought just from a precautionary point of view, they might have just taken him off there. But, hey, Jermaine Jones has been around long enough. He thinks he's okay.
But if he can't move with the way this game is going, and it looks like right now Jermaine Jones is just going to stand there at center back next to Miazga.
He's still feeling the muscle as well. He might as well be with an ice pack on that on the sideline somewhere. Here he is. I don't think he'll have too much to do. He's just staying at the back. Here's Yedlin. Bradley. It has been ridiculously easy, really, for the USA. Can they get a 7th goal? Is Darlington Nagby. Well, he won't have to turn or twist or sprint, Jermaine Jones, but he's just making sure the USA end the game with 11 players. They don't really need to, though. Just playing keep ball now, really. Job is done. They don't want anyone else getting injured. There's no heroics needed now. It's all about getting on the coach and then the plane down to Port of Spain and getting into that rather more demanding fixture. Morris, Bradley. Chips a lovely little ball through. It's cut back towards Altidore, who's waiting, and he wants that big goal, doesn't he? European playoffs continuing. Second leg of Denmark against Sweden Tuesday. Zlatan Ibrahimovic in action, of course. Coverage beginning 2:30 Eastern on ESPN2 and also live on the Watch ESPN app. Again, Matt Beasler's come forward. Is this going to be another flick on at the near post? Surely St Vincent and the Grenadines are alive to this now. They go for a rather more conventional one, which is aimed towards Beasler. Ream cuts it back a long way behind everybody in the end. Has the virtue of being a defender who wants to defend at left back. He is, of course, a right footer playing on the left side, and you could argue centre back's his more natural position.
But he's shown the ability tonight to deliver a ball with his left foot. He's always been naturally left-footed and good ability going forward. I think the big question for Tim Ream is whether or not he can keep up with the pace of game and deal with the higher caliber of athlete he's going up against.
Bradley, Morris. The youngsters out there in some force now. Yedlin among them, age 22. Can they come up with something this time? Cut back again. Altidore was waiting in space and hoping he'd be able to take advantage. Nagby doing well in the build-up. Here he is again. Nicely done. Good run, wasn't it, from Morris. Now Beasler picks up very, very tired. These St Vincent and the Grenadines defenders now, who could probably do with the final whistle. Reality has crowded in on them after that electric start they made, which seems now a long, long time ago. That stunning goal from Olex Anderson to put them ahead. Beasler plays a 1-2. He's joined the attack now. He's an auxiliary striker. Bradley towards Zardes. Solomon got ahead to it. Back in by Ream. Altidore went to the floor, looked up at the referee. Nothing doing again there.
And Ian, before the final whistle, I think it's safe to say you and I, this was a very difficult game to call. With everything going on in Paris, everything going on in France. Yes, the United States will get 3 points tonight, but I know our thoughts and prayers are with everyone dealing with that crisis right now in Paris.
And the ramifications, of course, of that will go on. And of course, it does leave a big question mark about the European Championships next summer as well, and the security operation that will have to surround that, which would be monumental. Here's Josie Altidore. Flicked on towards Morris. He thought for a moment he was into. First touch just let him down there. Morris would have been right in on goal. Stoppage time here now. Job done for the US. You couldn't really have any complaints, could you?
No, and in a performance that I fully expected. You're talking about a team made up of semi-professionals, and you're talking a team with their backs against the wall a little bit. So many question marks with Jurgen Klinsmann and this team after subpar 2015. This is the performance I expected. Now I think a better understanding of where this team is in World Cup qualifying will come Tuesday night against Trinidad.
They've tried their hearts out, St Vincent and the Grenadines. Well, the referee, in the end, puts them out of their misery in Missouri. 2 for Josie Altidore among the USA's 6 goals, a couple of them via deflections. Off and running with 3 points. Cornelius Huggins, the coach, gets a little hug. And the USA are off and running on the road to Russia. There could be a few rocks ahead. It's going to get tougher than this, but the job's been done here tonight in St. Louis. 6-1 to the USA. Analysis with Bob and Casey coming up in just a moment.